How is it going, MovieBuffs fans? This is Tyler, one of the hosts of the MovieBuffs Podcast. If you are looking for an affordable way to work out, check out Time to Train Fitness. It's a brand of YouTube channels where you can do bar workouts, you can do cycling workouts, you can do HIIT workouts, dumbbell workouts, or you can see product reviews. In the description, you're going to find a link for the main page for Time to Train Fitness, and you can find all the associated brands there to subscribe to and follow those workouts. As I said, it's free, it's affordable. Start today, work on your health, and now let's listen to the episode. Welcome in on an instant reaction episode of the MovieBuffs Podcast. My name is Tyler, and I'm going to be going through a movie that's going to be coming out actually in 2 days at the time of this recording. I saw an early screening of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and I was pretty excited to see it. I hadn't been to movies in a couple weeks, and I'm a big fan of Guy Ritchie, so getting tickets for this, I have to give a shout out to my wife. She saw them on the AMC app, booked them, and I enjoyed it. And there's going to be a couple things that are in the negative department that I'm going to touch on, but I thought it was something to do an instant reaction episode because right now it's kind of a slow period for movies coming out as we're awaiting the summer blockbusters. And this was actually a movie I thought was going to really explode. And I might be wrong on that. When I originally saw the trailer for it, I was thinking, oh, wow. Henry Cavill, Guy Ritchie, and Bruckheimer as a producer. Okay, this should be a knockout. This should be one that's just going to do gangbusters at the movie theaters. And so I'm not sure if I stand by that statement anymore, and I'm not sure if it was a good idea that I didn't say that. But let's get started with this episode. Before we start into the meat and potatoes of it, thank you, as always, for listening to the MovieBuffs Podcast. There's a lot of options out there for podcasts in general. So taking the time to listen to me talk about a random movie at any point in time is always appreciated. If you have time, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. So cast and crew for this. Guy Ritchie's the director. I already mentioned that. He's done things like The Gentleman and The Covenant. I can go on and on with Guy Ritchie. Rock and Roller, which is probably one of my favorite films in general, and not just from Guy Ritchie. He did Aladdin with Disney. He did Sherlock Holmes, both 1 and 2, Snatch, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and there was easily 10 more movies that I could have listed on here. But he's a unique director. And I say that because he has a very unique style. Some of that resonates with people in terms of maybe you're from the ghettos of England. I might be calling it wrong to say the ghettos of England, but the way that he films, the way that he does action, it's a very unique style. And that's part of why I like watching movies from it. It's not a generic movie that you can't tell the director who did that movie and a sequel from him. You can definitely tell any material from Guy Ritchie that is his stamp on it, and that makes it fun. And I like the uniqueness of it. The cast, stacked cast, and I'm just going to give 7 of them. Henry Cavill, Alan Ritchson, that's Reacher if you didn't know what his name was. Alex Pettyfer, who I haven't seen in a movie in a long time. Isaac Gonzalez, Babs Olusanmokan, and I know that I butchered that. Carrie Ills and Henry Golding. And there were a handful more people I could have listed. It had a pretty stacked cast, and it definitely shows. IMDb storyline, billed as a true story about a secret British World War II organization, the Special Operation Executive founded by Winston Churchill. Their irregular warfare against the Germans helped to change the course of the war and gave birth to the modern black operations. One of the unique factors of this movie that I didn't realize till I was putting this outline together was that it's an R rating. I didn't realize that going into it, probably because I'm a grown-ass man, but putting together and thinking about, okay, yeah, it makes sense. That's an R rating just from the swearing, the topics, and how much gore is in it. This movie in general, so walking out of it and thinking about it, and even just the start of it, I'll say the first quarter of the movie, it puts a bunch of swag on killing Nazis, which is awesome. Killing Nazis and just doing it in a fun way that's funny, enjoyable to watch, that has some great Guy Ritchie. His term is his filming sequences and all that kind of good stuff. It was fun. And I'm putting that at the beginning of this episode because I will admit that it kind of teetered off after that, but it really starts pretty quick and you get the vibe, the Guy Ritchie vibe right off the bat. The sequences that they have when they're I'm just gonna say that they're breaking out somebody that's a part of their team. It is fun. It is funny. It is very unique to Guy Ritchie. And I felt like it was something that you're literally just tapping your foot, you're smiling, you're laughing, and you're having a good time, which is part of going to the movies. With that in mind, and with some of the characters that are involved with this, there's some sequences here with Alan Richards, so Reacher, that he's basically a Reacher in this movie, but funny. And I'm not sure if he's playing if his character is homosexual, but it's fun to watch him in this role. He's still jacked as hell. He is still literally beating the crap out of people, but it's fun to watch his sequences. And I do recall some of the content, the movies that he's been in before, not my favorite pieces. And it's always funny to see him pre-mega Reacher jacked, but he's definitely one of the fun characters in this movie that you could tell that he's having fun, along with Henry Cavill. I really feel like Henry Cavill in this movie is just having fun. I feel like he has a smile the majority of the time that his scenes are on, that he's just smiling, being goofy, having fun, killing Nazis. And I feel like that really comes through with his character. If you're looking for a unique way to stand out with your business cards, check out Moo. Nothing associated with cows or any farm animals, but Moo is always my choice for business cards. It's always something I look for when I'm going to conferences or when I'm going to do any type of business networking. And Moo is always my stop for getting unique business cards that stand out. Check out the link in the description and you will for sure find an option that fits your brand and what you're trying to convey through a business card. If you didn't catch from what I was talking about in the beginning when I gave the IMDb storyline, supposedly the inspiration for 007, and there's even a character in this that's named Ian Flemming, that they took supposedly Ian Flemming took inspiration from one of the characters in this movie. That's Henry Cavill's character. But I honestly thought about when I was watching this movie, and it's probably because we had that recent rumor about 007 and with an actor that I didn't see it when it came out. The rumor about, give me 1 second. I don't know why I'm dropping. No, I didn't put it in my outline. And it, there we go. Aaron Taylor Johnson. I always draw a blank on his name. I don't know why I do that, but I always draw a blank on his name. But there was this rumor that came out a few weeks ago, and I remember quickly some people were just like, "This is not true. Only old men believe reports out of this magazine." And then it was shot down within the next 24 hours. But when I saw Alex Pettyfer, he honestly gave me 007 vibes for a bit. Now, he's 34 years old, and I know some people are going to be thinking, oh, Henry Cavill. And trust me, I'm just as big of a Henry Cavill fan as the next person. I just think he is, or I know he's too old for the role, which is funny because if you know his backstory into different roles that he was up for, and especially the 007 one, but with Henry Cavill, with Alex Pettyfer, the age I do think plays a big role in it. But I got a couple vibes, 007 vibes from him, and I think he is another person that over the last few weeks I've kind of been like, I could see him in that role. Like a few weeks ago, I thought about Theo James. I watched The Gentleman from on Netflix, which is also a Guy Ritchie property, and I really was like, wow, I could see Theo James, but he too is in his late 30s. And I feel like they're going to go with a much younger actor that can potentially be the role for more than just 3-4 films. And that's what you got to think about it. I know that a lot of fans thought about Henry Cavill and and even Idris Alba, but their age. They could potentially do an action movie for 1, 2, and that was one of the issues that really hurt Daniel Craig as this time went on, because he was getting more injuries, and that's what we're seeing even with Tom Cruise having to delay production because of potential injuries with doing an action film, and these action stars doing their own sequences. So keep that in mind. But I thought that was one of the more interesting things that came up while watching this movie. With this movie in general, it's a very toned down Guy Ritchie film. And I say that because over the last 3 pieces of properties that I've watched from him, The Gentleman, the series, not the movie, The Covenant, what's the another property that I've potentially seen from him, but I'm just going to go with those 2 for right now. They're more toned down, Guy Ritchie. And I'm saying this as a fan of Guy Ritchie, that I love, I think, the Cockney. I love the slang. I love the back and forth, the wittiness. I love that. I call it the Guy Ritchie signature filming style, when it's almost like a camera's right in front of the actor and they're running, and you're just seeing, and the camera's moving back and forth, and I'm pretty sure the camera's strapped to them while they're doing it. I love those sequences from him because they're unique, they're different. But at the same time, I know that his type of films are not for everybody. And I feel like he's starting to tone down some of that to appeal to a general audience. Do I think that's a positive? Yeah, in some aspects, because I am one of those people that I don't get the gatekeeping that happens with some properties. And with Guy Ritchie films, if he can reach a broader audience, I think that just means that we're going to see more Guy Ritchie properties. So yeah, okay, I'm here for it. But I will say that this is toned down. After the initial sequence in the beginning of the movie, the first quarter of it, it is pretty toned down, and you don't get. I don't think there was a that typical point of view sequence shot in it, but I will say it's much lighter than other things that you filmed from him, like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I felt like that was a fun spy Guy Ritchie film that you get all of that in. I know that there's people that were unhappy with the end sequence, how they basically took out one of the end sequences and made it very artistic, but that was the movie. And I think you're either a fan of him or you're not. Like with the King Arthur film, I liked it. I was a fan. I liked the music. I liked the perspective on it, but there's some people that they just don't like the way that he does storytelling. But that's just my perspective on this one. One of the more interesting things that I was thinking about the movie was who is playing Winston Churchill. The eyes, the voice. I kept thinking, I'm like, why can't I name this person? And I kept going in my head, it has to be somebody that is in a lot of Guy Ritchie films. And it was Roy Kinnear, who's you might think of from comedies. I always think of him from Cuban Fury, which is not a Guy Ritchie film, but it's a very unique, it's unique makeup, I'll say, of Winston Churchill based off of different portrayals you've seen. And you almost spend like the first sequence with him, you're thinking that's supposed to be Churchill, isn't it? And you're just like, okay, like I guess that's pretty accurate makeup and the fat suit that he's wearing. But it was definitely something that stood out, and I'm not sure in a positive way. Well, let me give you the trivia that I copied down for this one. There wasn't much because I saw an early screening of this, and there's, I think, only like 5 different little trivia things that I pulled off IMDb. It's based on the 2014 book, Churchill's Secret Warriors, the explosive true story of the Special Forces Desperados of World War II by Damien Lewis. Henry Cavill plays the historical figure who inspired Ian Fleming's James Bond. Cavill has long been a fan favorite to play Bond on screen. Talked about that already. And the last one, Ian Flemming introduces himself as Fleming. Ian Flemming. This is a nod to his fictional hero, James Bond, who in many of the films in which he appears introduces himself as Bond, James Bond. With all these ones, they're not that interesting for trivia, but like I said, there weren't many options to pull off IMDb because the movie hasn't come out yet. My recommendation for this one, I already mentioned that it teeters off, and Is it still fun to watch? Yes. I think that Guy Ritchie fans are going to show up for this one. I can see Henry Cavill fans showing up for this one. I'm not sure it's going to be the blockbuster hit that I originally thought when I saw the poster for, when I saw the trailer for, when I saw who was the producer, director, main star of it. But I still think it's something that if you want to go to the theaters, you enjoy going, yeah, definitely. I don't know if it's going to be one that gets that audience that waits for streaming. I know a couple of people that listen to this podcast, they typically wait because they got young kids. Going to the theater is not as easy as just snapping your fingers and heading to the theater on a Friday, Saturday night. So I think that audience will wait for it, but I'm sure they will catch it once it does eventually go to streaming. So this has been it for a instant reaction episode in the MovieBuffs Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Went over quite a few things talking about this movie, Guy Ritchie, different characters in it, James Bond, all that kind of stuff. Thank you as always for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.